Uh, Hello, everybody.
Hi, what's
Uh,
up?
Today,
Hey,
we are trying out something new. We have, for the first time, set up our format to include a guest, and the guest happens to be a dear friend of the both of us, Ivan Nagar. And today, we will be talking about Indian philosophy because we all share a kind of a keen interest in it. We are not pretending to be subject experts or history experts, and this is more of a overview and our thoughts and a conversation. So we will begin our conversation. I wanted to do this because Ivan, who is now studying at Columbia,
Hmm.
wrote a paper that was very interesting to me, which
Hmm.
was about basically the Socratic problem of India, and
Hmm.
there was like a relationship drawn between Socrates and Krishna,
Hmm.
and there was it was a lot more detailed than I'm able to say. So, Ivan, do you mind telling us a bit about your paper and where all you went with your sources and everything?
हाँ आई मीन मैं थोड़ा सा हिंदी इंग्लिश में शफल करता रहूंगा बीच में। इसका एक्चुअली पता है, मैंने तुम लोगों को भी ये बताया नहीं है अभी तक, लेकिन इसका लाइक द वेयर इट sort of germinated this was I had gone on this terrible date in Bombay and she was this like model actress wannabe intellectual sort of person. I remember मैं थोड़ा digressions करूंगा just to
नहीं
keep
नहीं
things
सही है
fun.
सही है सही है
Yeah,
हाँ.
love that.
I remember तुम लोगों ने वो पिक्चर तुम्हें मालूम है, Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes.
हाँ हाँ
I remember that came up at some point, and I said, and I try to like Jay and I have always been into movies, and but we try to not come across as snobs because that's just like really so. I, with some humility, some feigned humility, I will admit, I said, मुझे तो ज़्यादा देखो अच्छी नहीं लगी, but it's critically acclaimed ये वो because she loved it.
Hmm.
Uh, Dude, she goes, oh yeah, you probably didn't understand it. It's probably not for you, but
Yeah,
you
bro,
probably didn't get it.
to
It is very serious cinema,
to
and
to
and
tell
in my
you,
head I'm like, okay, wow,
yeah, sorry to
very
interject,
funny.
Ivan, but like I had a similar experience, but like I did not go on a date, but like there was this friend of mine, and we were having a discussion on that
And I
book by.
promise this will come back to your
Yeah,
question about
yeah,
the
yeah,
paper.
yeah. So this
This will
friend
all
of
add
mine.
up eventually.
Yeah. So this friend of mine, when we were discussing Arundhati Roy's book, The God of Small Things, and
Mm.
I did not like the book at all.
Terrible
And
book, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, and you know what? She says the same thing. She's like, "Oh, इसे तो समझ नहीं आया होगा," and like it just
Yeah,
I hate
exactly.
people when they do that. I was like, इसमें
Yeah, I
समझने का
hate
क्या
that
है भाई? It's like
because
you'll.
it's like साले हम तेरे बाप बन सकते हैं sort of tension में. हम अच्छे, we are playing nice.
Yeah, exactly,
मतलब
bro.
बस कायदे में रहो.
Yeah.
तो राजा उजर वाला चल ले.
एडिडास की है 4,000 रुपया की.
But anyway, coming
uh,
back to your question, and with
Mm.
some degree of seriousness this time, I promise. Then we end up going to her best friend's apartment, and it's her best friend and her gaslighting boyfriend who's very gaslighting. मतलब वो मैं पहली बार मिल रहा हूँ और फर्स्ट डेट है और वो मेरे पास आके बिच कर रहा है उस मेरी डेट के बारे में कि भाई ये कितनी अजीब है ना. इतना हुआ ये. So anyway, at one point we start somehow talking about philosophy, probably because I ran out of things to say and they were drinking,
yeah.
and I
Which is
said,
also Ivan at a random party can
yes,
start talking about
I go
philosophy.
full autistic and I'm just like, guys, तुम्हें philosophy अच्छी लगती है क्या? तुम्हें history अच्छी लगती है? And I think it's more insufferable when you're not trained uh, in the what's the word? Discipline.
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 Oh,
Like people like us who are just like hobbyists basically. कि
right.
हमने बस online बहुत ज़्यादा time spend किया पढ़ते हुए ये सब चीजें.
Hmm.
But I said कि यार, it's always been intriguing to me कि Krishna and Socrates are both historically contested figures. I mean, their historicity has been contested. and both never really wrote anything of their own. The wisdom that they passed on is paraphrased by somebody else who happens to be there, or who claims to have happened to be there. In the case of Socrates' disciples, many cases, most academics think that they weren't actually, Plato was not present, Xenophon was not actually present, they were making up shit half the time. Similarly contentious claim in the context of India, because obviously Krishna becomes a religious figure and there's more sentiments attached to that. But even devout, people who take the Mahabharata at face value will say कि हाँ, संजय जैसे physically present नहीं था वहां पे, was the primary narrator, या आपके जो भी व्यास भी प्रेजेंट नहीं है फिजिकली थ्रू आउट, तो वो सुनी सुनाई बातें हैं ऑन सम लेवल. तो आपका विजडम इनडायरेक्टली, उनकी फिलॉसफी आपके पास इनडायरेक्टली पहुंच रही है थ्रू वेसल्स. एंड अ थर्ड पॉइंट ऑफ सिमिलैरिटी वाज कि हाउ literally all of their philosophy is through discourses with an interlocutor. So it is always like a dialogue. And I thought these, like, it was uncanny. A lot of these similarities were uncanny. Then I even talked about how there is similarity in their teachings, a lot of the principles that they bring up. तो ये लिटरली एक बैड डेट के कल्मिनेशन में जब मेरे पास कुछ बात करने का कहाँ से आया थॉट. और फिर जब मैं ग्रेड स्कूल में अप्लाई कर रहा था, मैं काफी डिफरेंट प्रोग्राम्स में अप्लाई कर रहा था. So I was applying to some history programs, some philosophy programs, some politics programs even. तो मुझे, मेरा ह्यूमैनिटीज का बैकग्राउंड नहीं था, अंडरग्रेड BSc थी, तो मुझे फ्रॉम स्क्रैच एक एकेडमिक पेपर लिखना था which had to be respectable for these good institutions. एंड मेरे लिए ट्रिकी ये हो गया था कि वो हिस्टोरिकल वो भी मीट करना चाहिए रिक्वायरमेंट, फिलोसफी भी मीट करना चाहिए, पॉलिटिक्स. तो बड़ा मुझे एक वेन डायग्राम की तरह, मतलब ओवरलैप्स चाहिए थे 3. तो ये मैंने इसको सोचा कि इसको मैं अप्रोच कर सकता हूँ, क्योंकि मैं इनके पॉलिटिकल इम्प्लीकेशंस ला सकता हूँ. ऑब्वियसली फिलोसॉफिकल और हिस्टोरिक लेंड्स इटसेल्फ मोर नेचुरली टू दिस सब्जेक्ट. तो वहां पे मैंने ये लिखा पेपर. और इतना मैंने कभी किसी चीज के लिए अपनी लाइफ में नहीं पढ़ा है जितना मैंने इस पेपर के लिए रिसर्च किया. जो मेरी बिब्लियोग्राफी, मतलब कितनी मैंने 50 किताबें पढ़ ली होंगी इसके लिए, जो भी मुझे मिलता था. मतलब ऐसा होता था एक पॉइंट पे कि कृष्णा नाम कहीं दिखा बुक शॉप पे, मैं बस उठा ली. मतलब तेरे साथ में हुआ है राज, हम खान मार्केट में है, बाहरी संघ में खाली कुछ, तो अब मैं तुझे दिखा रहा हूँ आज भाई ये उठा लिए. और उसमें एक ये थी पूरी जो जर्मिनेशन की स्टोरी थी. इसके बाद I'll keep yapping, so I'll let you.
Okay. No, so that's that's a very productive use of a bad date. What an outcome! That's like the ideal outcome of a bad date, that you end up writing a paper that gets
Yes.
you in grad school.
That's true.
But
yeah.
I would just like to say, because I read your paper and I've also read this book that I picked up with you. Interestingly, I don't know if you remember at the Delhi Book Fair earlier this year, an introduction to Indian philosophy. This one.
Radhakrishnan.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
this is not. This is Chatterjee and Datta.
Oh,
by
right.
the
This is
Motilal Banarsi Das.
Motilal Banarsi Das का जो stall था.
हाँ, exactly. So in fact, you motivated me to buy this one, and
Yeah.
But so anyway, but my assessment of Indian philosophy is very limited because I've read this one introductory book. For the context of this episode, I have reread your paper. But as a general person, what sources did you use? और मतलब कोई बंदा अगर मतलब इंडिया में इंडिक फिलोसफी समझना चाहता है तो उसको कहाँ स्टार्ट करना चाहिए, मतलब ताकि मतलब इन डिस्कशंस में वो लेफ्ट आउट ना फील करे, कुछ वैल्यूएबल इनसाइट भी ऐड कर सके. सो जस्ट where does a guy wanting to get into Indic philosophy start in your view?
I'll go first because Jay is has always been a more informed person on this topic than me, honestly. So Jay, you can come in after me and sort of add if you feel there is some addition. But Jay और मेरा ये है कि हम academic उस discipline से नहीं आते हैं, तो हमारी जो इसके साथ जो the brushes that we've had with it, have been informal. There is a positive side to this as well, because in the academic spaces there tends to be a lot of, at least in my experience, and I've seen that at UCL, I'm seeing that at Columbia, there's a lot of regurgitation of thought. There's a lot of prescriptive, these are the guys you should be reading, these are the authorities. So there is little or less scope for like divergence from those views, like heterodox opinions. तो आई गेस क्योंकि हम दोनों अपने आप सीक आउट करते हैं कि हमें क्या पढ़ना है, इस ऑथर को पढ़ा, वो ऑथर इन 3 हिस्टोरियंस की बात कर रहा है, ये इंटरेस्टिंग लगा, अब इसकी किताब ढूंढता हूँ, तो वो हमारी जो जर्नी रही है आई सपोज हैज बीन मोर ऑर्गेनिक. आई एम सेइंग दिस, आई एम डूइंग दिस डिस्क्लेमर बिकॉज तेरा जो सवाल है उसके आंसर में मैं जिनके नाम लूंगा, दे आर नॉट कंसिडर्ड वेरी अप टू डेट authorities.
Right.
They are not considered. One has been the unfair victim, I will say, of the post Edward Said kind of Orientalist cult, cancel cult. Again, not to shit on Edward Said completely. Orientalism is a good book, but I feel like that has been taken as like a कि अब Indian philosophy पे अगर कोई भी गोरा लिखा था ना 19वीं सदी में, तो बहुत साला
तो
कमीना
गलत है.
वो उसकी पढ़ ही नहीं सकते तुम. He's a no-go zone,
Yeah.
which I think is fundamentally insane, and also ironically it is a contradiction of Indic philosophy's teaching itself. Gita is out very clearly कि जो ज्ञान मार्ग पे जो चल रहा है, या जो जिस चीज के बारे में अगर कोई नॉलेज रखता है या उसके पास वो विजडम है, तो आप उसको इस बेसिस पे नहीं डिस्क्रिमिनेट करोगे. मतलब ये सारा मैंने डिस्क्लेमर इसलिए किया क्योंकि मैं obviously Radha Krishnan is the go-to for a lot of general readers, including myself. I will count myself as a general reader because I'm not a trained, well, what is a trained philosopher? But I'm not a trained historian, और राधा कृष्णन हम सबसे बड़ी अथॉरिटी है, कम से कम ये तो हम मानते हैं. और अगर हम ये मानते हैं तो फिर हमें इस पे भी वजन देना चाहिए कि राधा कृष्णन अपने खुद की किताब में किसको साइट करता है सबसे ज्यादा. वो मैक्स म्यूलर को साइट करता है. आप उसके गीता की किताब उठा लो, आप उसकी इंडियन फिलोसफी की जनरल किताब उठा लो, आप उसकी उपनिषद की किताब उठा लो, वो हर जगह कॉन्स्टेंटली साइट कर रहा होता है कि मैक्स म्यूलर की ये बुक है, आप उससे पढ़िए, मैं वहां से ये पॉइंट लाया हूँ. तो अगर यार उसके लिए मैक्स म्यूलर इज गुड इनफ, तो मैं ये सोचता हूँ ऑन सम लेवल विद ह्यूमिलिटी कि यार मेरी क्या हैसियत है कि मैं क्वेश्चन कर रहा हूँ कि मैक्स म्यूलर मैं नहीं पढ़ूंगा, गोरा जर्मन, इसे क्या पता. अरे भाई वो एक जर्मन था, कभी मेरे ख्याल से, करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग जय, वो कभी इंडिया आया नहीं था लाइफ में अपनी. उसने सिर्फ संस्कृत सीखी, उसने इस हद तक डूबा मतलब स्क्रिप्चर्स में, तो वो ही इज अ गुड, आई थिंक ही इज अ गुड स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट. उसकी उपनिषद की किताब है जो अब्रिज्ड वर्जन है, जो बड़ी इजीली एक्सेसिबल है इंडिया में, और वो बहुत छोटी है, मतलब 300 पेज से भी कम है शायद, जो मुझे याद है. कन्वर्सली अगर इसकी आप राधा कृष्णन की उपनिषद की किताब देखो, दैट इज अ टोम एट 900 or 1000 pages. So that can be intimidating अगर कोई casually interested है, जो I think आजकल काफी, not to get political, but post 2014 there is a resurgence of interest in these things amongst young people for whatever reason, which are mysterious, and we certainly don't know about the reasons. But
I mean, it's a welcome change. Regardless, it's a welcome
change. It's a change, whether or not it's good or bad, we won't get into that, I suppose, but it is a change. And if somebody like that wants to check out the Upanishads out of general interest, फिर वो 900 पेज की किताब देखेगा ना, तो it's disheartening, I think, at least to me, someone like me.
That's true, and I'm glad that you spoke about your assessment here, because if we speak about history for a minute and not philosophy, we know the controversy that arises of just promoting the same sources as authorities on a subject issue and neglecting some others, because then you can always assert a claim that there are writings of this historian or this philosopher which are ideologically colored. Now, I found Orientalism by Edward Said a very insightful book, and an oriental, quote unquote, oriental critique of the Western philosophy or the Western academic circles was, or the Western view rather, was required. but after a point, there was also a lot of effort to conduct inquiry on part of many Westerners who came in India, lived in India. Max Muller was a more recent example, but even in the towards the end of the medieval period, also you had British officers coming to India, learning local languages, and then later on, modern history, you have examples of many of them even learning Sanskrit and Urdu and these languages that belong to the subcontinent very well. So you can't eliminate their contribution to history, which I think the Edward Said view of history risks doing a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I like Edward Said's Orientalism. I read it many years ago, and so I'm at Columbia right now. He was a professor at Columbia for the longest time. So he's a
Right.
thing of pride at Columbia. उसके मतलब नाम पे library में reading room वगैरह बना रखा है इन्होंने, क्योंकि he's a celebrity. He's a celebrity
Mhm.
academic. He was a celebrity academic. Having said that, I what puts me off slightly is the kind of orthodoxy with which his followers approach his claims or his beliefs or his hypotheses. एक cult like quality आ जाती है जब आप किसी intellectual की ऐसी I mean, ironically, in India we've had great examples as well, right? And I always find it hilarious कि Ambedkar was somebody who warned against this in his famous quote, right? कि जो गीता से भी जुड़ती है, गीता को ही वो एक तरह से रेफरेंस कर रहा है कि भक्ति रिलीजन में तो आपको उससे मुक्ति शायद मिल जाएगी, लेकिन हीरो वर्शिप या भक्ति पॉलिटिक्स में बहुत डेंजरस चीज है. I think I will extend that to politics and academia as well, and that is what I see happening with Edward Said. कि इसको बड़ा एक उसकी डिवाइन एक सेलिब्रिटी स्टेटस मिल चुका है.
Right. Jev, what's up?
Yeah, to add to what Ivan was saying, I feel that in the academic circle, for the longest time, there was a sorry, there was like this particular thought process which was dominating for the longest time, and that thought process was heavily influenced by quote unquote Marxists, and people never really shied away from that tag. And as Ivan pointed out, that there was so much hero worshipping of these academicians that even criticizing them a little bit meant that you're conducting some kind of heresy and an academic suicide. I mean,
Yeah.
take for example the writings of Romila Thapar or Irfan Habib's, right? So you will always have like a certain section of people who would vociferously defend their writings, and even if you try to view it from a skeptical point of view, you would meet a lot of resistance. And as you pointed out, and as something that was also stated by Dr. Ambedkar, such type of hero worship is dangerous, and it is quite reflective of a totalitarian society. And it is quite ironic that these are the same institutions which have always talked about democratization of institutions and a lot of progressive thought, whereas they themselves are not very open to criticism or skepticism.
Yeah. Also, I mean, maybe this is entirely my sort of hypothesis, I suppose. But
This is
like,
exactly what Ivan does before saying something controversial. So I love what's coming.
what ये हाथ ऐसे जोड़ के नहीं, इतना कंट्रोवर्शियल है नहीं, बट
हाँ,
जैसे इसने रोमिला थापर का नाम लिया, सतीश चंद्रा है, ऐसे कई मार्क्सिस्ट हिस्टोरियंस हैं जो 50s की जनरेशन मानी जाती है, सोएस जनरेशन से बोलते हैं. और आयरॉनिकली इनका जो ज्यादातर का जो सुपरवाइजर रहा एट सोएस और एक मेंटोर इनके लिए रहा, हु जे इंट्रोड्यूस्ड मी टू आर्थर ल्यूवेलन बैशम एंड हिज बुक द वंडर दैट वाज इंडिया. अगर आप वो किताब पढ़ो तो उसमें आपको कहीं टिंच नहीं दिखाई देता मार्क्सिज्म का. वो इट इज द क्लोजेस्ट थिंग टू दैट आई हैव रेड, एंड जय एंड आई आर बोथ obsessive nerds about Indian history. It is the closest thing. I don't know what you feel about it, Jay. It is the closest thing that to an objective history जहां पे मैं bias उसका पकड़ नहीं पाता हूँ. ज्यादातर historians का आप पकड़ लेते हो कि अच्छा ठीक है ये passage इसने इस तरह से structure किया, और जहां इसने subjective अपनी tone लानी चाहिए उससे पता चल जाता है उसका bias. बैशम का आपको बहुत कम दिखाई देते हैं ऐसे instances उस किताब में. और very popular, very accessible book. Again, going back to your earlier question, Raj, कि अगर कोई anybody wants to get started beyond just philosophy, because India के context में philosophy and history are inextricably linked, right? I mean, in most cases they are, but in our case there comes a third level, which is the religiosity, which is the theology and philosophy in India are even closely linked, because there was never a formal rejection of religion, such as the case in later European philosophy, right? With the empiricism and so on. तो हमारे लिए वो सब overlap करते हैं. तो ये अच्छी किताब भी है, The Wonder That Was India, A.L. Basham. Jay told me about it. Fantastic book. I recommend it in my paper.
I recommend that book to everyone. Like specifically, if you have to understand the rudimentary aspects of Indian history, that book is amazing. In fact, the only bias that I could get from that book is probably this guy was writing from a from a Christian theological angle, because you would see a lot of comparison that he was he was trying to draw between the early medieval reformist movements of southern India, specifically the Lingayat movement, the Bhakti movement under the Alvars and the Nayanars, and him comparing it to Christianity. So he said that like a saint who would suddenly rise and be the savior of the masses. So he was pointing out that you could say that it was distinctly influenced by Christianity. So that was the only bias I could see. Like he was comparing most of Indian history and the religiosity of Indian history with biblical ideas and concepts.
But it's full of these wonderful nuggets.
Yeah.
I remember there was one instance which was beautiful to me while I was reading. So I was going through that entire book again कि कोई भी मुझे कृष्णा के ऊपर comment मिल जाए, या कोई मुझे उसके वासुदेव ये जो भी मैं keywords जो मैं ढूंढ रहा था. तो there was this one beautiful instance जहाँ पे एक Tamilian merchant है जो travel कर रहा है, I think all the way to Egypt, but this is like somewhere in Mesopotamia, in the Mesopotamian region. वहां पे उसने एक इंस्क्रिप्शन छोड़ा हुआ है एक आयोनिक टेम्पल में, क्योंकि वहां उसे कृष्णा का मंदिर तो मिला नहीं, तो आयोनिक टेम्पल पे उसने इंस्क्रिप्शन, जैसे आजकल के लवर्स मॉन्यूमेंट पे जाके लिखते हैं, उसने लिखा हुआ है कि यहाँ से मैं ऑब्वियसली पैराफ्रेज कर रहा हूँ हिंदी में, कि यहाँ से मतलब ये मर्चेंट गुजरा, मेरा नाम वासुदेव भक्त. तो ये and this is I think second or first century, I think. Again, don't hold me to it because I don't remember the exact thing, but it's lovely to read stuff like this and to imagine what the life of that merchant would have been like. इतनी पहले वो अपने देश से इतनी दूर कहीं जा रहा था. Obviously the Tamilians had a lot of trade with the ancient Egyptian, well, not ancient
Romans as well.
Yeah, but a lot of the Egyptians as well, right? Well, yeah, at that point they are the same thing. Romans are controlling Alexandria, and you see a lot of those inscriptions, right? You see a lot of those remains of Tamilian merchant shops and signboards and whatnot. I think it's an exciting bit of history.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, we will discover. Sorry, Raj.
No, go on, please.
Like in most of the ports of southern India, historical ports, like in and around those areas, you will find a lot of Roman coins as well. In fact, this book had like a very interesting anecdote. It basically talked about a Brahmin from the Chera side, the Chera kingdom, which is now Kerala, who had gone to the Middle East again for trade, probably towards Oman. And the Arabs noted that this fellow was a strange guy, because he was the only one who was asking for a separate plate for himself. Because around that time, in communal eating spaces of the Arabs, right, there wasn't a concept of having like a separate plate for yourself, for your individual, for your individual choices. And that's where they started observing the the idea of cleanliness that the Brahmins, carry with themselves. So that was also an interesting observation.
That's crazy. I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep thinking back to the point that Ivan made about like India's history and philosophy being indistinguishable at points from each other. My assertion, and it's a very basic point for somebody who keeps track of philosophy and history, is that if you read a lot of the philosophy coming in from the Vedic period and up all the way up until Mahajanpadas, which is I think the correct timeline for even maybe when the Mahabharata happened historically and war was documented in those times. So I think in those times, the Indic philosophy is a lot more justified with things like violence, things like warfare. There is a lot of emphasis on things like Kshatriya Dharma and all of that. And then when Indian history kind of goes to a period of self-reflection in our philosophy, the times of Buddhism, Jainism, and that kind of becomes India's philosophical export to the rest of the world also. So I think it's interesting to note that how our historical phases and how they interacted with each other within the subcontinent became our personal philosophies, became our religions. And I think this must have carried on up until maybe the Bhakti movement started. And
I think उससे भी ज़्यादा हम आगे जा सकते हैं. I mean, this is again ये मेरा assumption है. It is, dare I say, an educated, informed assumption. Being a lover of Urdu Shairi as well as ancient Indian philosophy, you hear echoes of the Vedic philosophy till like the 19th century. You know the hymn of creation from the Rig Veda, the first hymn, when there was nothing, what was there, and that it obviously this is the English translation from Discovery of India, and Sham Benegal used it in the show as well. Very famous, very philosophical, contemplative hymn. It is insane to me how contemporary it feels, and this is the most ancient hymn perhaps that we have from ancient humans. Really, I don't think. I mean, Rig Veda is considered perhaps arguably the oldest religious scripture in the world.
Yes.
Right, and this is the hymn from that. So this is definitely one of, if not the oldest hymns, and it's so contemplative. Matlab, it goes over. It is so existential. It goes over कि जब कुछ था ही नहीं उससे पहले क्या था. It's such a philosophical contemplation, I think. And you hear echoes of that as late as, I mean, Ghalib, arguably the most popular, if not the greatest Urdu shair. I don't think he's the greatest. I think Mir was the greatest, but obviously very popular. और उसकी बड़ी popular एक गजल है कि ना था कुछ तो खुदा था, कुछ ना होता तो खुदा होता, डुबाया मुझको होने ने, ना होता मैं तो क्या होता.
right,
ये मुझे
echoes
लगता है ये मेरी कंस्पिरेसी थ्योरी टाइप में जा रहा हूँ, लेकिन मुझे आई वुड नॉट बी इंटायरली सरप्राइज्ड अगर गालिब के कानों में कहीं ना कहीं से पढ़ी थी, क्योंकि ये ऑब्वियसली उर्दू 19th century उर्दू शायर्स वर, I'm not saying they were very forward, like they were forward thinking obviously, but I'm not saying they were essentially rebellious against orthodoxy. So they did take a lot of the Hindu iconography in their poems. I would not be surprised अगर इसके कानों में कहीं ना कहीं से पड़ी थी और उसके थ्रू हमने ये मैसेज सुना है. या फिर
that's a very interesting theory,
Bro,
and I mean it's entirely possible also.
Yeah, and I'm saying alternatively, let's assume it to be not true, and then let's examine it. In which case, Ghalib grew up on the same land, on the same intellectual plane, let's call it, that thousands of years ago this message was echoed. Could it not be at least argued that the civilizational message was so recurrent कि उसके टाइम तक वो साइकोलॉजी नॉर्थ इंडिया की सिमिलर रही, वो साइकोलॉजी में कहीं ना कहीं एकोस थे. तो अगर
that he arrived at the same thought.
Yes, he's an inheritor of that intellectual legacy, if we can call it that.
So, like, to add to what Ivan is saying, the genesis of the Urdu language can be traced to the army camps of the Islamic rulers of the country, because it comes from the word orda, which means an army camp in Turkic languages.
Also, the English
And
word horde comes
horde
from.
comes from that. Yeah, Turkic horde. Yeah. Anyway, so what I was saying was that Lucknow was also considered the cultural center for the Awadhi region, and also the center for Urdu. Now, to what Ivan was saying, the Nawabs of Awadh, for the longest time in their courts, used to perform Krishna Leelas. So there has to be a lot of, harmony between ancient Indian philosophy and like, in the intellectual sphere of that time.
I think you end up absorbing. Sorry, Ivan.
Yeah.
You
नहीं
go
नहीं,
on.
मैं बस इसका यही कहने वाला था जो इसने मेंशन किया, जो वाजिद अली शाह करता था।
Wajid Ali Shah,
और
exactly.
एक मंदिर है जहाँ आपको अभी भी वाजिद अली शाह का वो एक इलस्ट्रेशन मंदिर के अंदर आपको दिखेगा, वाजिद अली शाह गोपी बन के नाच रहा है।
Exactly.
Used to dress up as a woman in devotion sort of to Krishna. Arguably, in the Islamic sense, a very haram thing to do and a very
But he was,
disrespectful.
but he was Shia, bro.
It's very
Yeah, but
eccentric character.
it's
I really wanted to-
almost
I-
sacrilegious in
Yeah,
in a sense.
absolutely. No, it is sacrilegious. It is, I think, undoubtedly sacrilegious. But I found this anecdote so interesting and that linkage so interesting. I really wanted to mention this in my paper, but I really tried, but कोई तरीका नहीं मिला मुझे to show on this.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I have to
Absolutely.
say.
एक और पेपर लिखा जा सकता है, तो you'll
Yes.
always find a way, right?
हम तीनों
So,
बैठ के
and-
लिखेंगे वो एक पेपर.
भाई मैं
But,
लिखना चाहता हूँ, पता है एक
हाँ.
आइडिया है मेरे पास, लेकिन अब मैं क्योंकि मैं अब ठीक है कि ये थोड़ा फील होता है कि अब जो भी करिकुलम दे रहे हैं साला यही करो, अपना डिग्री लेके निकलो यहाँ से, थोड़ा सा माइंडसेट है। बट क्योंकि मैं एट द सेम टाइम में इतना मजा आ गया था मुझे इस पेपर को लिखने में, आई वाज लुकिंग एट another one of my conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory, this is a belief that many hold. It is contested not because it's untrue, but because there is not enough empirical evidence linking the two. But it's the Hanuman reinterpretation as Wukong, which is a very popular mythological tale that every single child in East Asia, Southeast Asia, even as far as like Japan, Korea, to like Indonesia, has heard about Wukong. और आपको उसमें और हनुमान में uncanny similarities मिलती हैं. It has to be the same source material. Wukong at one point एक पहाड़ उठा के ले आता है. Exactly. I mean, there's so many.
He can grow in size. He can become a giant.
He can grow in size. He's the son of wind. He's the son of wind. Pavan Putra Hanuman. तो और वो थ्योरी ये है कि वो बुद्धिस्ट मंक्स जो हैं, जो जापान तक गए एंड थ्रू चाइना, दे टुक विद देम
obviously
Jataka tales, no? That had
जाटक कथाएं, जाटक कथाएं,
Jatak. And they took a lot of the Indian pre-existing stories amongst
yes.
I think one contentious view has always been that more of a personal life philosopher, and if people would call him that, but I've always admired Alan Watts for calling Buddhism the Hinduism for export, like a capsule that got exported to Southeast Asia, and oftentimes became more easy to resonate with other cultures because Buddhism had at least one sort of personality that you could focus your devotion to, because Hinduism is so absorptive, it's so diverse, and that so many tribal religions, local religions got absorbed into it. So I don't think our form of Hinduism can exist that in that diverse way anywhere outside of the subcontinent. But similar philosophies have traveled. All of the Buddhist Jain philosophy that has traveled to different parts of the world was born here, and I think it's a much simpler concept to digest for many cultures. I'm not saying that we are any intellectually richer. I'm just saying that maybe there are variances. between cultures.
Certainly, there's no doubt in a theological sense that religions are built upon each other. And
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it in a very cynical sense. Think about it in terms of market share. You know, आपका एक dominant player है, be it Judaism or Christianity, any Abrahamic faith, and the one that succeeded it. आपके लिए सबसे लुक्रेटिव तरीका है ये कि आप पिछले की में खामियां देखो और फिर आप कहो कि नहीं नहीं पर ये बेटर है, देखो ये हमारे वाले में ना ये इम्प्रूव्ड है थोड़ा सा. बुद्धिज्म ग्रो करता है इनिशियली इंडिया में, तो वन ऑफ द मेन रीजंस ऑफ इट्स अपील इज इट्स लैक ऑफ फोकस ऑन रिचुअलिस्टिक
And caste.
performative practices and caste, obviously. But I think, again, cynically, I think it was the simplicity of it. आपको कोई यज्ञ नहीं करना है, आपको पंडित को बुला के आप बस एक पेड़ के उस पे बांधो, कुछ ये हो गया बस. तो सस्ता पड़ता है यार. अब आदमी जो एक आम आदमी है वो हमेशा आम आदमी है थ्रू आउट हिस्ट्री. उसको सिंपल चीज यही कि भाई भगवान से थोड़ा सस्ते में कनेक्शन करवा दो.
Ritualism is expensive for sure. The procurement of idols, setting up of larger temples, that could have become an expenditure even for the landlords or the traders or the merchants of the time. Just as simple practice. If religion is viewed as a philosophical practice, Ajay, you've got your hand raised. So
yeah, so the decline of Buddhism in the early 5th, 6th century of India, of India's history, is actually associated with the fact that the Buddhists had abandoned the Prakrit language and they had gone back to Sanskrit, and the Buddhist monks had started following the rigorous Brahmanical traditions. So, and that's when, like, the revisionist movements led by Adi Shankaracharya from the Chera areas started to take
Last
a lot
hair
of.
like to be cool.
Yeah. Bro, he was like the Hanuman kind of that century, bro. Wait a minute.
please don't compare Adi Shankaracharya to Hanuman kind.
Anyway, I'm joking. So yeah, that's what, man. And he was able to present Shaivism and Vaishnavism in such a way that it became easier for the masses to accept. And another thing that I'm gonna put your attention to is that in the Indian subcontinent, you'll realize the areas where Buddhism flourished the most, specifically East India and Western India. That is places towards Afghanistan. I would, because cultural ethos around that time went all the way till Afghanistan. I'm talking about like ancient India, which includes like the modern territorial extent.
The technical term is Akhand
Akhand
Bharat.
Bharat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those frontier areas,
Yeah.
present day NWF,
Yeah, Takshila, Gandhara, and all these areas. So all these places had a very, very, very strong presence of Buddhism, and the other place which had a strong presence of Buddhism was Bengal. Now, once Buddhism declined, and in the medieval times, you have like new religion coming in the form of Islam. You will realize that in these two areas again, Islam starts to dominate. You get it? So
that's an interesting point. I never
right,
thought
so
of it. Those
Buddhism,
terms.
where Buddhism was dominant, like Islam became dominant. So that basically shows that these areas inherently were not very accepting towards like the Brahmanical tendencies and practices, and that's why you'll see in places like Punjab you had the Sikh religion come up later on, and if you see the practices of Western Hindus, though their practices are like totally opposite than the practices of Eastern Hindus. Like Bihari Hindus' practices and beliefs and rituals it's totally opposite than like the practices of say a Haryanvi Hindu. And I see in places like Haryana and Rajasthan and all, you'll see that here the people do not really give that much of control to the Brahmins. Here, people have like their own association with different gods. You get it? Whereas in eastern parts of the country, towards Bihar, you will see a lot more Brahmanical domination when it comes to scriptures and like conduction of ceremonies and all. So that is one thing that I've noticed.
And I suppose that if
Yeah.
your assertion is historically that accurate, then it doesn't really make it a surprise that Buddhism was born out of parts of Bihar and
Exactly.
Eastern UP,
It's hilarious.
you know, because
It's
I guess
hilarious.
it was
Hmm.
that much more of a need to divorce personal religious practice from ritualism in those
Exactly.
areas. So you sort of divorce yourself from Brahmanical
Absolutely.
practice. But
Absolutely.
then few centuries later, the Hinduism comes back to arise. So Ivan, you got your hand up.
नहीं मैं इसीलिए मैं कुछ बोलता नहीं हूँ कि so that you can complete your point and then I can
Yeah,
come in.
yeah.
Don't please don't like stop your
Right,
thing.
right.
But I
Yeah.
just wanted to go back earlier when Jay was talking about the Bhakti movement, and
Mm.
there is no doubt that from a historical point of view, but even more so from a religious point of view, if I was like a Hindu, and I mean, I should make it clear, I'm an atheist, but I suppose हम सब Hindu household में बड़े हुए हैं, तो I guess on some level we are all Hindus.
True now.
If I was a devout Hindu, I would have so much significance for Adi Shankaracharya's role in the resurgence of the Hindu faith, right? Having said that, I'm not the biggest fan of bhakti as a philosophy. मैं Gita, obviously, I'm really into the Gita. I really love the Gita, read it quite a bit, And it's not an inscrutable text, obviously. It's not an inscrutable text. India में सबकी sentimentality इतनी है गीता के जैसी किताब के साथ. आप उसे एज अ फिलोसॉफिकल टेक्स्ट देखो, जो मुझे लगता है देखना चाहिए. और फिर there's plenty which is wrong with it, plenty that is amazing, plenty, and it's shockingly violent at times. Gita is not some nice sweet religious text.
No.
Very brutal text, very
Yeah.
brutal text. But anyway, उसमें the paths that it lays out, Bhakti was my least favorite one. Yeah, it seems the most unintellectual. It's
Yeah.
so much to do with surrender,
Mhm.
and the Gyan path is so much more interesting. आप मुझे बोल रहे हो कि मैं सरस्वती की पूजा करके भी मुझे मोक्ष मिल सकता है, तो मैं क्यों ये भजन पढ़ूं मैं? More intellectually
Yeah.
Mm.
I think my favorite parts of the Hindu philosophy were almost always written in the like pre like Vedic period in those times, because I think a lot more violence was justified in those times, because there was so much movement. Even in the Mahajanpadas, there are kingdoms always fighting with each other. There are struggles going on for power, and in those ways, in those times, there is almost a justification attached to killing, to self-defense, and that becomes a part of your personal philosophy, your religious philosophy. There is an outright absolute justification of violence in Mahabharat, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. I think it's honestly quite based, for the lack of a better word, that my religious text allows me to sort of totally justify taking somebody's life. उसकी तो आत्मा है, वो अपनी साइकिल चलती रहेगी, या तो उसको मुक्ति मिल जाएगी इस वर्ल्डली लाइफ से. तो वो मेरे को आज इस वर्ल्डली फॉर्म में तंग कर रहा है, तो मुझे इट्स टोटली जस्टिफाइड फॉर मी टू टेक हिज लाइफ in self-defense. And in fact, there is so much against impotence, there is so much against weakness, there is so much against the inability to fight. Like, there is almost a usage of the word of impotent in the translations of the Gita, because Krishna is literally telling Arjun that get up, be a man, take charge and fight. It's almost like Nietzsche. And Nietzsche
Yes,
much later.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ivan.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I'll get to my point, but what you said is amazing. And it reminds me, Vivekanand has this commentary on the Gita, which is great. It's meant for like a young reader. So anybody watching this, जो हमारी तरह बुजुर्ग नहीं है, मेरे और जय की तरह, जो पढ़ सकते हैं इसको young वाली किताब को, I will recommend. Again, I keep going back to Raj's initial question, because I think that's sort of the central binding theme of this episode.
That's
People
true.
getting into
Yeah.
this sort of thing. People who are on their way to becoming as autistic as Jay and I. For them, Vivekanand's written a great commentary on the Gita, और उसमें वो लिखता है विवेकानंद कि मुझे ये लगता है कि ये जो गीता की जो टीचिंग्स है ना, ये हिंदुओं ने मानी नहीं, और जो क्राइस्ट की टीचिंग्स हैं वो इन्होंने लागू कर ली, और जो क्रिश्चियंस हैं वो गीता को फॉलो कर रहे हैं, ऐसा मुझे लगता है. क्योंकि ये हिंदूज इतने पैसिव, इतने सबमिसिव हो गए हैं, और ये जो क्रिश्चियंस हैं ये गीता की एक्चुअल जो असर्टिव जो टीचिंग्स हैं, एक्शन की जो टीचिंग्स हैं, उनको वो फॉलो करते हैं। आई थिंक दैट्स अ ब्रिलियंट कमेंट। और अगर किसी और ने कहा होता, had it not been a man of Vivekanand stature, this would be super controversial. But
That's true.
तो रेवरेंस है इस देश में आज भी, तो हम we are forced to shut up and think about what he said. Yeah. And
This
it's
is
exact-
almost like exactly like the Nietzschean critique of Christianity, right? That it's made you weaker. It's made you focus on the weakness and upliftment, and there was an assertion of almost like a masculinity of sorts, which was about taking control and not being weak. And I think that
there is a poetic tragedy to it, that the Europeans who were followers of Christ, culturally at least for centuries, dominated and conquered the world through brutal means, and the Indians who had texts like Krishna's teachings in the Gita and were a lot less assertive in that sort of way. So he's got a great point there, Vivekanand. But इससे अलग क्या कहने वाला था पीछे जब तू कुछ बात कर रहा था?
नहीं, absolutely. This
but
is a
चलो
very
ये एक last चीज मैं बोलूंगा. We can come closer to the conclusion of the episode, but look at the conclusions that are coming out of this conversation. We start with the Socratic parallel of Krishna. Now we have come with a Nietzschean parallel to Swami Vivekananda. And prior to the episode, Ivan and I were talking about the parallels of Arthashastra and Machiavelli. So there are like parallels of Indian philosophy, the roles major philosophers have played, and very similar outcomes that have come out in different parts of the world. Ivan.
मैं यही बोलने वाला था लिटरली, मुझे जो मैं भूल गया अभी, तूने वही मेंशन कर दिया. मैं ये कहने वाला था कि एपिसोड से पहले राज और मैं, क्योंकि आई एम रीडिंग द अर्थशास्त्र, एंड आई वाज टेलिंग हिम कि आई फाइंड इट इंटरेस्टिंग, चाणक्य की जो टीचिंग्स हैं बहुत माकियावेलियन हैं, और ये तो राज, ये कोई ओरिजिनल ऑब्जर्वेशन नहीं है, वी कांट टेक क्रेडिट फॉर इट. आई थिंक द
एब्सोल्युटली
विवेकानंद वंस आर इंटरेस्टिंग पैरेलल्स, बट चाणक्य की वो जो अर्थशास्त्र में जो पॉपुलर वाली हैं कि साम दाम दंड भेद, और वो जो सबसे कोटेड चीजें, उससे अलग भी आई वाज टेलिंग राज, आई फाइंड दीज इंटरेस्टिंग नगेट्स, जहां पे वो बात करता है कि अगर राजा है और उसका विद्रोह कर रहा है उसका राजकुमार, देयर इज अ रेबेलियस प्रिंस, तो हाउ टू डील विद दैट. देयर आर वेरी प्रैग्मेटिक इंस्ट्रक्शंस, एंड आई सेड कि this reminds you instantly of what happened with the Mughals and their battles of succession, because he says कि अगर कोई आपको एडवाइस कर रहा है कि आप उसको ना डिस्ट्रैक्ट कर दो प्रिंस को, कि वो, I mean, I don't know how explicit we can be on this. Can we be explicit on this?
Yeah, sure.
कि मतलब अगर वो
go for it.
अगर दारू में डूब रहा है, रंडीबाजी में डूब रहा है आपका राजकुमार, और उससे वो डिस्ट्रैक्टेड रह रहा है, कि मतलब उससे वो विद्रोह नहीं करेगा और वो ऑक्यूपाइड रह रहा है, तो ये सबसे ही यूजेस द वर्ड पॉइजन, ये विष है आपके किंगडम के लिए आगे जाके, क्योंकि अभी तो आप टाल रहे हो उस प्रॉब्लम को, लेकिन जो आपको सक्सीड करेगा उसके पास होगा क्या, वो ये करके क्या सीखेगा. तो वो कहता है कि आप उसको ऑक्यूपाइड रखो, स्टेट क्राफ्ट के इतने रिगरस रेजिमेंट हो उसका, जो ट्रेनिंग मिले उसको फॉर टू बी द सक्सेसिव किंग, कि उसको फुर्सत ही ना हो रिबेलियन के बारे में सोचने की, which I think is a very, I think it's a very political, an entire political ideology can be drawn from the Arthashastra, which
and it's so relevant today. I'm not taking names, but there are like politicians whose fathers have been amazing leaders and their children have not really inherited the same kind of qualities, and it's so useful even in those regards, written so many centuries ago. It's a useful text for like, and politicians is a general like assumption. You can use this in business also, that I am my sole heir is going to run this enterprise, and I have like an instruction manual on how to raise him. It's interesting that
absolutely. And what you mentioned about
fanboys in Indian politics these days. Plenty of
Can you say that again? I missed that.
I said, for better or worse, you have plenty of Chanakya fanboys in Indian politics now. So that
Yeah, man, it's
Jay, you
quite
were
funny
about to
too.
say something.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting observation because I feel that if someone has so much on their plate, they become so disciplined that not only their kingdom survives, but in general also their life becomes better. And if they have absolutely nothing on their plate, they have absolutely nothing to fight for. When there is absolutely no purpose, then they start indulging in debauchery and, like, all the other vices that, like, people have been warning us for such a long time. So it is not just true for politics. I think this idea is true for general conduct of life, right? So it's not just the prince. It's just like, it's like a person heading a business, like you said, or like, general household. Like, once, like, the father becomes old, or the father's about to die, and he basically passes the family baton to the progeny, and then their, take to life has to be disciplined. It has to be very, very rigorous, so that they just don't have the time to indulge in these vices, and eventually they come out as their, best self. They become the uber monks, as Nietzsche, defined the best version of themselves.
To add to this, I
Yeah.
think this will be my last
Yeah.
point for today. But एक बार मुझे मौका मिला था किसी के इनविटेशन पे, एक पब्लिक गैदरिंग पे जाने पे, जहाँ पे जो गेस्ट स्पीकर थे वो पुरी जगन्नाथ के महंत थे।
Mahant.
तो हाँ ठीक है। तो उनके साथ जब हम लोगों ने क्वेश्चनिंग चल रही थी, तो वो एक सेक्ट है जो थोड़ा सा हिंदू फिलोसफी के ज्यादा राइट विंग साइड पे कंसिडर किया जा सकता है, मगर उनकी भी काफी इंटरेस्टिंग बिलीफ सिस्टम्स थी। तो एक इंसान ने ये किया कि अगर मैं अपने ट्रूएस्ट सेंस में आज हिंदू राष्ट्र बनाना चाहूँ तो मैं क्या करूँ। तो फिर उन्होंने बोला कि यार सबसे पहले तुम अपने घर से शुरू करो। You identify that as a micro unit and you start with your household, and nothing of the rest of the meeting really stuck with me like that after all your personal philosophies, your religious philosophies are implemented at home, then at a larger organizational level. Ivan.
Desi Jordan Peterson.
The problem with that argument, I must say.
भाई जॉर्डन पीटरसन का कोई नया पॉडकास्ट आया है जिसमें वो गेस्ट को बुलाता है और फिर उन्हीं को पकाता है, वो बोलने ही नहीं देता।
Hey, I will say it's very fashionable to shit on him, and there's plenty which is cringe about him, and I suppose the demographic that supports him. But ये जो centrality है उसके initial message की कि आप get your house in order, there is some value in that.
Absolutely.
क्योंकि I think we've all had those sort of communist friends in college जो मतलब worldly peace और फलाना ढिमकाना बड़ी बड़ी बातें पेल रहे होते हैं, और घर पे उनके बर्तन उन्होंने धोए नहीं है एक हफ्ते से, अपनी माँ के साथ पेश आते हैं, वो कितनी एम्पथी और काइंडनेस के साथ पेश आते
ड्राइवर को पैसे नहीं
हैं।
देते टाइम पे।
तो वो कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन मुझे सबसे ज्यादा वल्गर लगता था।
कम्युनिस्ट है लेकिन मैबैक में घूम रहे हैं।
भाई कम्युनिस्ट है भाई,
कम्युनिस्ट है।
आइडियोलॉजिकली लेफ्ट हैं और जाके डियर डोना बोका में 1500 की 2 ड्रिंक पी के, या मतलब क्या 2 3 मेरे को तो रेट्स का भी आइडिया नहीं है, बट इट्स at least be true to your philosophy, man. Like I really appreciate guys who are honest about it कि हाँ भाई कर रहा हूँ मैं कैपिटलिस्ट हूँ, मैं क्या कर लोगे, हाँ मैं हूँ हिपोक्रेट हूँ, लिटरली हम है भाई हिपोक्रेट, क्या कर लोगे। करूँ तेरी गुद्दी लाल।
सही है भाई।
Anyway guys, I think we can conclude the conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here, Ivan.
Yeah, great
Fun
conversation, bro.
मैं तो मतलब तुम लोगों के साथ 1 घंटे और कम से कम बात कर सकता था, इतना हमारा फ्री फ्लोइंग कॉन्वर्सेशन था।
Actually,
बढ़िया है।
fun. We might do a round 2 of this at some
Absolutely.
point. We must actually.
Yeah, we must.
I'm back, तो हम भाई फिजिकली सेम जगह पे बैठ के करेंगे।
हाँ भाई, वो और fun होगा actually.
Yeah. सही है।
All right guys.
चलो.
Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, Ivan. Ivan is our first guest actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
तुम लोगों ने बोला, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
चलो मैं
Yes,
रिकॉर्डिंग
yes,
रोक
yes.
रहा हूँ.
Bye. Bye. See you.
See you.